We're going to be having an amazing time now listening to a man who is very experienced when it comes to building transgenerational wealth, establishing businesses that have survived or that will survive generations, and he will share his knowledge with us. It's always an honor to listen to the managing director of Hexavia Group because he is loaded. Please, without further ado and without wasting any more time, we shall welcome to the microphone our special guest in this Executive Business Summit for 2026, Pnuel Properties. Welcome with me, Mr. Eizu Uwaoma. Please clap with your hands up. Please put your hands together for Mr.
Out in the state with excel with pride. We know the ghosts will stand by side. Document clear, thank you verified. Mind with peace, we go mind with wide. It serves you better, that's our vibe. Customer first, we know.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening, everyone. I'll start on a lighter note. So last time we saw was Oriental, and I reported the crowd to the organizers that why do you always make me speak last? And it's happened again today. So I'm reporting everyone. But it's an honor to be here. I feel like I'm home because this is family. Beyond just speaking, Pnuel is also our client. I've spent almost 20 years building structures and systems for people. If you're a writer, you write the books, the kind of books you love to read. If you're a singer, you will only sing the kind of songs you love to listen to. My first house address when I was born was number 11 Bodilon Road, Ikoyi. And we ended up living there for 20 years straight. My father wasn't very, if you know Ikoyi, at least you know it's for rich people. And if you know Bodilon, you know there is inner rich people. Just in case, to put context in what Bodilon is, on my street there were 3 governors living as neighbors. We were in that place when I threw a small party with my friends as teenagers, and someone walked in and introduced himself as the new governor's son. And that was Sheyi Tinubu. But I also have seen that my father just had a good job that gave him a chance. It didn't make sense to me. And because this is home, I'll be very vulnerable to you guys, and I'll not just even be technical. And if you're looking for the guy to be technical in strategy and structure, you're talking to the right person. But my work here is not to be technical. My first degree is mathematics. I'm not sure there's any course that can be more technical than maths. I'm currently doing 2 PhDs side to side, and I have at least 10 certifications and 3 master's degrees. But I'm not here to please you by sounding smart. I just want to tell you stories because you remember the stories. I grew up with people who were wealthy, not first generation, not second generation. As a matter of fact, as undergraduates, we hung out at a place and 2 teenagers were arguing, and one said to the other teenager, "Do you know who my father is?" And the person's father was a governor, a sitting governor. You know how teenagers are reckless and they're just children. He says, "Do you know who my father is? I can call my father now." And he says, "Do you know who my father is?" And the person that was saying who my father is, one person said, the boy said, "Before you call your father, maybe you should ask your father who my own father is." He says, "My father borrowed Nnamdi Azikiwe and Awolowo money to go and look for independence. That's why your father is governor." Levels, right? I saw people wealthy. My first stint at business was maybe 10 years, 11 years old. The first ever business I did was knowing that there was a place in Akbongbo where you could buy what you call banga. We call it fireworks. Rich kids call it fireworks. Where we could buy fireworks and sell it 10 times the price to white kids in our neighborhoods. You see, when you're broke in a broke neighborhood, it doesn't mean much. But when you're broke in a rich neighborhood, it looks like you are the VIP of hell. But I'm grateful for those experiences because those experiences exposed us to opportunities. Because I realized that, there were white kids that didn't know where they can buy banga. So we could sell it 10 times the price. So I've seen this thing called wealth in first hand. I've seen it in transgenerational people whose grandfather were wealthy. Sadly, I've also seen them lose money. Let me be honest with you. The house I grew up in wasn't our house. The house went up for sale for a discounted price. May you not work so hard for your children to auction what you've built. I was in Dubai a few years ago, and one of the Dubai princes said something that I held on to. He says, hard times are good. Hard times create strong men. Strong men create good times. Sadly, the good times create weak men. And that weak men will turn around to create hard times. Let me say it again. Hard times create strong men. Strong men will create good times. Good times will create weak men. And weak men will create hard times. It's a cycle of the generational wealth. When you school abroad, you find out that the people who are rich in Ivy League schools from Africa think different from people who are rich from Asian countries. When you sit in dinner tables and you have conversations, you find out that the guy that's from Nigeria, whose father is very wealthy, that sent him to Harvard, is saying, once I graduate, I'm going to work in the best companies in the world. The guy from Asia, say Chinese, whose father is also rich, that sent him to US, will say, when I graduate, I'm going to go back home and expand my father's factory. That's why China is ahead of its time. So when we talk about building transgenerational wealth, the first thing you must build is not wealth. Strange, right? The first thing you build is values that sustain that wealth. If you are successful here and you run a business and your children don't come to your shop, you're self-sabotaging your business. And some of us don't realize it because hard times create strong men create good times. If you're not careful, the good times you're creating will make your children weak. My wife will say, you need to be best friends to your children. And I'm like, yeah, I should be best friends to my children, but that's not the first work of a father. The first work of a father is to be their father. If God wanted me to be best friend, they would have met me in school as classmates. Everybody make sense? Does it make sense to us? My first work is to instill discipline and value. So you don't use time for value to make them happy. You are not an ice cream seller. You're a father and a mother. I was listening to an article. I was reading an article and Dangote was talking about his father. Hope you know that Dangote's grandfather was the richest northerner in his time. And the second richest man in Nigeria is Rabiu. Rabiu's father had 2 private jets in the 60s. In the 60s, when Nigeria probably had only 1 or 2 airports, somebody already had a private jet parked in the airport. So let me tell us something really interesting. And I'm going to use data. Sorry, I already told you guys my first degree is mathematics. And in maths, we talk data, numbers. Nigeria has 200 million plus people, but only 6 of them out of the 200 million have $1 billion. I'm talking about legal, formal wealth. So I'm not calling politicians. Forbes recognized billionaires. Let me tell you what the 6 of them have in common. I can mention them. Rabiu, Bua, Dangote Group, Adenuga, Glo, Otedola, Folusha, and Akija. And a few people on the waiting list to get there. So here's the good thing about wealth, if I talk about what they have in common. The good thing about wealth is that there's something going on in the universe that we Africans are not paying attention to. Somewhere in the universe, in the macroeconomics of grace, the thing we go to church to pray for, we pray for grace, pray for mercy. Two powerful things Christians pray for. God, give me mercy, and God, give me grace. But there's an outpour of grace, and I don't want anybody to tell me that grace is a function of religion. Because people that have grace, some of them are not even religious. There's an outpour. You might be hearing this for the first time, and there's data to back it up. There's an extreme outpour of prosperity in the universe. The world has been around for millions of years, depending on what you believe in, evolution or creation. But one thing we know is that 106 billion people have lived this earth. 108 billion people have lived this earth, and 8 billion are alive. You can do the math to know what the generations are. One thing we know is that since the world started and now, not one human being has ever had $1 trillion children. The only generation on earth that has shown that they are less intelligent than their fathers. Data, Google it. Gen Zs are less intelligent than their fathers, but guess what? They're going to be more successful than their fathers. So intelligence is not the most important factor to success. Data, every generation gets more intelligent than their fathers. I work with Gen Zs, I run a consulting company, I run other businesses by the side, talk about structure and systems. I think anything you do that makes you to always be there is a bad business. Any business you run that you have to be there to make money, and I'm talking to the right crowd because Igbo people like to be in their shop. Any business you run that you have to be there to make money is not exactly a business, it's a hustle. Now hustle, you the hustle. So pay attention to these facts and this data that I'm telling you. Gen Z is the first generation that is not as smart as the last generation, but they are the most successful in their generation. What I mean by success is, how old were you at 21? How much did you have at 21? How much does an average Gen Z at 21 have? They're making more money than we're making because of technology. They're not going to work, they're sitting at home, and they're making money. But here's the interesting thing about it. There are certain things I'm about to challenge that our parents taught us are not exactly true. Like, for you to be successful, you must be the most hardworking person. That's not true. As a matter of fact, you can be too hardworking to succeed. Like, the problem you have is that you're too hardworking. That's why you've not succeeded. So you see, when you live in Ikeja, First Stack, Computer Village versus Alaba, you think that the earlier you open your shop, the more you sell. Or the later you close your shop, the more you sell. What if I tell you that people selling more than you, I don't have shop? The journey to transgenerational wealth has 5 steps. The first step, people here are not in this, people in this place are not here. It's called financial crisis. That's where most of us started from. We start business because we are broke. We just want to make an honest living. Maybe you are squatting with your uncle, you came to Lagos. You know the Nigerian Igbo story. Some people came to Lagos and were hawking. And from hawking, they made enough money and took a small shop. And then from small shop, they opened another shop. And they had one boy. I spoke at Lagos Business School, LBS. And what I spoke about was the Igbo apprenticeship model. Because they don't understand it. It's raised more billionaires than any Nigerian university has raised. If you Google the community with the largest amount of millionaire per square meter, you know what you find out? Nnewi. Nnewi has raised more millionaires in dollars than any Nigerian university has, and they didn't go to school. Last time I spoke at Pnuel event, I was Koscharis from Nnewi. There's Gabros from Nnewi. There's Innocent from Nnewi. There is Ifeanyi Uba from Nnewi. Chisco. Now let me tell you what's interesting. We all start from here. The problem is, may you not just end up. You move to this financial instability. Financial crisis means that you are constantly at the mercy of other people. Somebody spotted you. If he doesn't like you, he will just chase you. You know when Joseph, when the wife of Potiphar looked at Joseph, sent him to jail straight. There's some people on your phone that if you check up on them now, if you just send a message to them on your phone, your contact, money will leave your account. There are people you say, hi, how are you doing now? You will do transfer. And you can't even, except you're not a human being, you will do transfer. If you're a human being, how are you doing? Their reply will be picture of them in police station or a hospital. You must do transfer. Those are the people here. Then there are people here, financial instability. They are not stable. Then there's people here, financial stability. Looks good. That's where you are, you've arrived. But it's delicate. You can go back to instability simply by stopping what you're doing today. You're in Alaba, 4-5 shop. What if Lagos State decides to close Alaba today? Guys, I've worked with over 600 companies in the last 16 years. I've worked with almost all the government agencies. I have a structured and a standard column on business day. I speak almost every week on Arise News, probably the biggest and most credible TV news station in Nigeria, Arise News. I engage governments. The biggest challenge Igbos are going to have in this town is that you are threatening the powers in this town. It's not hard to break your wings. Shut down Alaba. You wonder why your roads are bad? Shut down, hope you know that we're relocating Computer Village. Please, if you have money here, go and buy land in the new permanent site. Expo. Don't even think that it will not happen. Because there are 3 G's you should not play with. God, gone, and government. When COVID happened, the people here thought they were okay. Financial stability, 3 levels. Remember, I said there are 5 levels. Are you following? What's the first level? Second level? Third level? This guy here is an illusion. That's where most of us are. We think we are stable financially. But if they shut down a system, usually not something you have influence on, that we call it pestle in maths, but let's not go into it. Pestle is a convention on politics, economy, social, technology. These are things that change the dynamics of business. If one government comes now that doesn't like you, politics, it scatters you. If one thing economically happens now, if they just move dollar from 1.5 to 4,000 per dollar, you close shop. Social, if Gen Z say they don't want to use your device again. Guys, for 10 years, I sat on the board of this company. New Age. For 10 years, it was the biggest brand in technology. If you are in gadgets, you know this. New Age. It just took Chinese guys that they used to produce with guys who own factories to say, let's come and set up retail here, or I know. That's all it took. Sir. Then there is ecology and there is legal. So these guys here look like they're comfortable. Guys, we don't have people in this room here. We don't have people here. I'm talking to people from here to here. The ultimate goal is to get here. You know what here is? This is called financial independence, and this is called financial freedom. You cannot discuss transgenerational wealth without financial freedom. You cannot be surviving and be discussing transgenerational wealth. This session I'm about to have in the next 30 minutes is not for people trying to make an honest living. Because in all honesty, they are not honestly living. I have a mentor who was a former bank MD. When you're a former bank MD in the 90s, you can imagine how much money you have. I grew up in Ikoyi, where I had a friend whose father owned a bank. he would walk into his house where children who were doing lessons in his house. He was so wealthy that if he wanted his child to sit down and pay attention in class, he would pay for all of his friends, lesson teachers, to be there. You know, when your child says, I don't want to learn, and all your friends that you're supposed to play with are learning, you don't have any choice. Do you know how the amount of wealth he had? His name is Ibitimi Banigo. Data, names are mentioned. He would walk into the room with two guys, a boy, and a man and a female. The male was Tony Elumelu. He was a young banker that used to work with him. He owned the bank that he used to work in. And he working with another lady. You know who that lady is today? Folusho Alakija. Richest black woman ever. That's how power is transferred. Too many commissioners had in just stories I promise I'll tell. You know what's interesting about these guys? These are guys that sponsored elections that made presidents. There's a reason why you had a Niger Delta president. You had a Niger Delta president the last 20 years, right? There were people that sponsored the election. They were so wealthy. But let me tell you what's interesting. Somewhere in this equation, my mentor called me one day and said, Eizu, you can be successful or you can be successful. F-O-O-L. What differentiates them is how they think about time. Now, what does this mean? If your growth depends on your time, you're not exactly successful. If you can't control your time, tomorrow is Monday. If you've not built the kind of business whether you go to work on Monday or not, you still make money. You don't have structure. Am I shaking tables, guys? It's important to understand where we're going to in this commission. So the journey of 5 levels, after the 3rd level, your efforts should not matter. What should matter is structure and systems. Let me tell you this interesting conversation. Nigeria gives an illusion that what you came to do in this life is to make money. And don't get into that trap. What you came to do in this life is to impact people, be free, and be happy. But if you do not understand structure, you will walk your life away. I was in Port Harcourt last week. Last Monday, I and Dr. Stephen. Was it last Monday? Yeah, last Monday. I and Dr. Stephen, last Monday or last 2 Mondays, I and Dr. Stephen did 4 cities in one day. Took a private jet and we just flew. And then I realized how much money is not the goal. Freedom is the goal. We did Warri, we did Asaba, we did Port Harcourt, we did Warri, Asaba, Owerri. We came back to Lagos. Once we landed in Lagos, I flew back to Port Harcourt because we're opening a branch in Port Harcourt. I and my wife started a business, apart from the business I run, about 3 years ago. It's a food retail outlet. When I looked at the data and I learned Nigerians need to eat, when I realized that all these rich people, it's food that they are doing. Dangote, sugar and salt is selling, and flour. Boa, the number 2 richest man in Africa, is sugar, salt, is selling. If you know how much Indomie is making, Indomie, you know that all these tech bros have not started. Nigerians are not looking for cloud computing and AI like we think. Nigerians are trying to survive food. So we started a food brand 3 years ago. I and my wife, true story. In 3 years, when I went to Port Harcourt last week, we opened our 11th outlet. In 3 years. While I was there trying to open the 11th outlet, I found an opportunity for another outlet. That was 11th outlet, but the first outlet outside of Lagos. Structure is you don't have to be there for the business to run. I do know jack about food. If my wife wants to punish me now, let her not enter kitchen. Even when I was a student, I didn't cook. So you don't have to be passionate about what you do to make money. Guy, you think Dangote is passionate about cement? What is there to be passionate about cement? You go where the opportunity exists. But to cut long story short, something happened while I was in Port Harcourt. I went to visit a client, and the client he owned retail outlets for electronics. 45, he was one of the biggest electronic sellers, sells anything that has to do with household electronics, fridge, freezer, gadgets, And when actually the car was running back to the airport, he said something to me. I said, we're going to Japan and China. I'm going to Japan and China with Cosmos Maduka. Would you want to come? And he said, Eizu, should I be honest with you? In the last 10 years, I have not left Nigeria. So I paused and I said, it can't be money that's making you not leave Nigeria because you're wealthy. He says, Eizu, if I leave Nigeria, won't my business suffer? Hope you're not in that position here. Whatever you're doing that does not allow you enjoy freedom is not really a business, it's a hustle. And there are 3 ultimate goals of life: happiness and freedom. But that freedom is broken into 3 things: financial freedom, location freedom, and time freedom. If you don't control your time, you don't control your location, and you don't control your finance, you're not free. Which brings me to the heart of the matter, structure. Because the only way you can find freedom is by structure. The more structure you have in your business, the more freedom you will have in your life. So I'm going to make this practical and be interactive at this point. How many people here run a business above 10 staff? Raise your hands up. If you run a business that has over 10 staff, you paid salary in April, May, with 10 staff, raise your hands up. The volunteer. So we're going somewhere with this. So here's the thing. How to build structure that delivers freedom for you. Because this is called traditional wealth. Is not a product of how much you work. Because you can work so hard and that becomes the reason why you're not successful. Hope you know that in that 5 levels I broke down. The most hardworking are actually the guys at the bottom. Data. If you want to find hardworking people, go to the construction sites of real estate companies. Go to the markets, the guys that carry wheelbarrows. How do you move from here to here? First thing you must do in your business is first, you must have what you call the BHAG. You know what BHAG means? It's an acronym. Big, hairy, audacious goal. If your goal here is to build a house in your village to show you have arrived, and I feel at home, like I said, this is like home to me. Set up here, probably Igbos. Igbos have a fundamental problem they're not paying attention to. Notice what I call 6 richest billionaires in this country. There's no Igbo man on it. You know what's funny? If I extend that to 10, you won't find. 20, you won't find. 20 richest people in this country, there's no Igbo man. I can tell you my full chest. Even though they think that we're businessmen. Except you want to add Delta to Igbo, then it starts to make maybe sense. All I've done beyond business is data. And I'll tell you why. One of the fundamental things you need to be very successful is having a leverage from your past generation. And because of the Biafran war, Igbos don't have that. Hope you know that most of us here are doing well. Most of us are doing well. Our grandfathers started from scratch, or at least our father. Hope you know that after the Biafran war, there was no millionaire as an Igbo man. is one of the most successful car companies after GIG in recent times. You know when GIO started? A few days after the Biafran War ended. He went to queue to collect money. When he went to queue, and the queue was long, this is a true GIO story. When the queue was long to collect small stipend as support, you know how when you're NYSC copper, you queue to collect that alawi. He sat there and realized that it was going to take a while for him to get his own small funds. But if everybody collected in the queue, well, how would they go home? He left the queue to set up a transport company to take them home when they collect the money. By the time you do 2 rounds of going from wherever they went to collect the money, let me say from Onitsha town to the village, you realize he was going to make more money carrying people than waiting on the queue. That's how GIO started. So let me tell you what's interesting. 6 billionaires in Nigeria, you know what they have in common? Their parents were wealthy. People don't talk about it. We don't want to talk about it because there is something called cumulative advantage. Cumulative advantage is the leverage you use to climb. When they say Otedola is so wealthy, don't forget that Otedola's father was a governor in Lagos. You know what it is for a father to be a governor in Lagos? Running for governorship when Tinubu was running for Senate. So we Igbos, put your hands together for yourselves. You've done well. Because the guys you're competing against had leverage. You don't have leverage. You started from scratch after the Biafran War. What now do you need to do? First things first is you must have a BHAG system. Big, hairy, audacious goal. Let's scrap this thing of trying to make money to go back to the village to show that you have arrived, because you have not arrived. That house you're building in the village that you go to only twice a year, 1 week in Christmas, is not a good investment. I know you don't agree with me. You don't have to agree with me. Dangote, and let me tell you the truth. As you get older, master's bedroom move from the last floor to the down floor because you can't climb up. Put your money where it multiplies. Am I communicating, guys? Another problem we have is mindsets. I will end this conversation with structure, but I can teach you structure and you will still struggle. The same way 4 people can go into a hospital with malaria and the pharmacist will give them the same drug, but 2 weeks after, 3 will be healed of malaria. 1 will come back and say the drug is fake. Let me tell you, if I give you Lonart, you know Lonart drug, and I say take 3 in the morning, 3 in the afternoon, 3 on the first day, 3 in the second day, 2 in the third day, and 1 on the fourth day. That's the direction. And then you decide to take all of them on the first day. You will not be healed. That's what's happening. So this thing called structure, it took me like 10 years after teaching structure, I realized that the reason why some people are not getting the structure right, they're not getting the composition right. So when we talk about set up board, set up a JD, set up KPI, there's something we're missing. Mindset. For example, what if you don't have a mindset of urgency? What if you don't have a mindset of abundance? Let me even start with abundance. Because you grew up in poverty, it's already 1-0. If you grow up in poverty and you don't conquer the mindset of somebody that grew up in poverty, let me tell you the first thing that happens when you grow up in poverty. Everything in life seems scarce. Because when you grew up, everything was scarce. How you drank tea in the morning as a child was that they gather everybody and make tea in one big cup and now share it to different people. If you grow up with that mentality, you don't think that things are abundant. Hope you know that scarcity is not a human, it's not a universal concept. God did not design things to be scarce. It's humans that make things scarce. The things that God created is not scarce. The things that humans created is scarce. water, air, sand are not scarce. No matter how much they dredge. I was at Eco Atlantic a few weeks ago, and I was telling a Gen Z that drove me to Eco Atlantic that, you know, this thing called Eco Atlantic 20 years ago was called Bar Beach. If you went to Eco Atlantic 20 years ago, it would have been Bar Beach, water and sand everywhere. I don't know if anybody grew up around the Bar Beach era. The water was coming out. I was telling the guy that this thing you're calling land was water. The guy, it didn't make sense to him. You know what he asked me? He said, how much sand did they use to cover the water? I said, you can't recognize that because you are not thinking abundant. The sand does not finish. When next you're just walking past and you see birds on top of trees, you understand what abundance really means. How are they surviving? No matter the amount of fruits they eat, there's still more fruits. The air you're breathing, 98% of the air you're breathing is useless to human beings. It's just wasting. The rain that falls, over 80% of the rain that falls is falling on ocean, useless. The ocean does not need water. If you don't think of life as infinite, you will struggle. The reason why you're not helping your other brother is because you're thinking scarcity. That if I help him, it will affect me. I was just whispering something to Oga Chinedu here. I said, why should anybody help anybody and go down? You free one boy, then you went down. That's why you're not free one boy, so that one boy will not take over. I said, Money Point is one of the biggest financial service brand that's come out of Nigeria. Guys, I went to Echo Hotel to do transfer, and they gave me Money Point accounts. I said, the whole Echo Hotel is Money Point that you need to pay now. You go to big brands that give you OPay. OPay used to be something that boys on the street used to do 4K, 5K transfer. But let me tell you what's interesting. You know who invested in OPay? So you know who invested in Money Point? The first guy to invest in Money Point, it was Jim Ovia of Zenith. So why did Zenith not go down? Because Money Point was coming up. Lack of structure. You're keeping people you should let free in your business because you don't have structure. Am I communicating, guys? So tangibles, so you don't miss the point. I'd like to run through the slides. I don't know, please put back my slide. I want to show them something just real quick. So just so you don't think about having random commissions, the ultimate goal of life is not wealth. It's actually happiness and freedom. Use wealth to find happiness and freedom. Wealth is supposed to help you make people so valuable that eventually it leads to you feeling happy. There is no such thing as joy than helping people in the real sense of the word. The best form of joy comes from how you help people. But if you don't understand this thing, you will make money and the money will stop you from helping people. The second thing you need to learn is on the 5 steps. Most of us end up here. And 1 to 3 is really about survival. That's financial independence and financial freedom, is about structure. And to build structure for a business, you must have 4 mentalities. First one is a mentality of abundance. Nothing in life is scarce. When the guy says he's leaving, your staff says he's leaving, don't feel bad, because where that guy came from, there are other people there. If you don't understand this thing, you will be fighting people you should let go. So I learned something from Pentecostals. Pentecostal guys have gotten right something that no other denomination has gotten right. It's how the pastors pray for young pastors to be set free. What if people like Oyedepo? I was in Warri last week. We stopped by Komaya's place. I don't even know Pastor Komaya. Pastor Komaya was heading one of Oyedepo's church. I don't know whether it was in Lorry or so. A lot of the big churches you're seeing were people who were serving under some other people. What we call one boy in Igbo land. But Pentecostals have learned to kneel down and pray for their young pastors to go. Do you think that the Dunamis pastor is competing with Oyedepo? No. As he's growing, Oyedepo is also growing. The problem is that you don't think that other people should grow because it will make you not grow. You must kill that mentality. And it's abundance that can kill it. It's a mentality. Second thing, you must have a sense of urgency. We live life like we're going to live forever. Nigeria is one of the countries where people die the youngest. Data. Macroeconomics call life expectancy. Life expectancy in Nigeria is 55.5 years. Some countries like Japan has it at 80 years old. What life expectancy means in macroeconomics is that the average age it takes for somebody to die. Nigerians' life expectancy is 55.5 years. That means if you live above 55 years old, you're living on grace. So why do you think you have all the years in the life to in the world to live? You must have a sense of urgency, not because you think you're going to die at 55, but because you want to make so much. Let me tell you what's interesting. I spoke at an event before I came here, and it was a tech event. I was telling these guys, I said, look, the average age to be a billionaire in dollars in Nigeria is 60 years old. Nobody in Nigeria has $1 billion below 60 years. But the life expectancy is 55. What does that tell you? That most people will die before they hit that. So how then do you build it? And you know what's funny? If you now add the fact that the 6 people who came from wealthy families, they're you that are coming from scratch, how would you get there? The only way you can get there is something she said, but we need to pay attention. Partnership. You are not going to live long enough to make all the errors yourself. Don't try it. Learn from other people's error. Mentorship. Tinubu was mentored by MKO Abiola. MKO Abiola didn't live long enough to be president, but Tinubu what? Am I communicated? You are not going to live long enough to make all the mistakes. Find somebody who has made all the mistakes. Have a sense of urgency. Data. Nigeria is one country where people live. The average age of to graduate in Nigeria is 25 years old. Most people graduate at 24, 25, do NYSC at 26. If you grew up in US, you'd have been a graduate at 22 or 21. If you send your children abroad at 21, they're doing masters. In Nigeria, they're writing JAM. So we start late, die early. That's the data. And you can say God forbid, but that's what data is telling you. So how then are you not having a sense of urgency? Nigerians don't play with time. This event was for 4. At 5 o'clock, half of the room was empty. It shows something about what I'm saying. Let me tell you something. I travel a lot, and I realized that the states in Nigeria that are doing better than other states have a correlation with time. I don't know if you know that Nigerians, even though they're 30 states, they are not thinking alike. The person that grew up in Jos does not think like the guy that grew up in Lagos. The guy that grew up in Lagos talks faster, thinks faster, works faster. People don't know that. I'm married to a beautiful man who grew up in Jos. And for the first 4 years of marriage, I used to say that, like, you know, hurry up, hurry up. And I realized that, wait a second. She grew up in Jos. I don't know if anybody gets it. Lagos people talk fast, walk fast. We hustle. If you guys, this country is an interesting enigma. But let me tell you what I'm saying here. You must have a mentality of urgency if you're going to make it in this country. What you are thinking to do 2 years from now, why are you not doing it now? Some of you have heard everything Pnuel has said. Next month I will apply. What is stopping you from applying now? Just do it. The reasons are, I don't think I'm good enough. I don't think I have enough money. I don't think that I'm ready. Do you need to be ready? The guys that change the world are not exactly ready. And about this thing about the universe having so much abundance, let me tell you what's going on right now. It took the world almost 10,000 years to hit one guy that has $1 trillion last week, Elon Musk. Let me tell you what will happen. And remember I said this prediction. Give the world another 1 year, another person will hit $1 trillion. And you start to wonder, how come it took 1,000 years to hit one, and then the next one was not $1,000, it was 1,000 years, it was a few months. Let me bring it back to you. In 2020, there was no company in the world that has ever made a revenue of $1 trillion. As of 2019, no country had a company that had done $1 trillion. Then it was Jeff Bezos that hit it first. Amazon hit $1 trillion. Guys, guess what happened in 2 months? Apple hit it. And now one month, Meta, Facebook hit it. Then Alphabet, that's Google, hit it. So how come it took almost 10 years for one company to do it and took only 3 months for 4 countries to do it? That's the abundance I'm saying. In this room, if you work hard, you find out that even though there are only 9,000 millionaires in dollars, that's what the data is saying. Data is saying there are only 9,000 millionaires in dollars in Nigeria. It will not take that much for double to happen. His name is Herbert Wigwe of Access Bank. The question I ask is, when we heard that Access Bank MD had passed on, how many of us went back on Monday to go and withdraw our money from Access Bank? That's structure. If your customers are buying because of you, you don't have structure. I'm shaking tables, eh? One of the most important things you must do in your business is set up succession plan. And you don't have to be old to do it. So there are 3 assumptions I'm telling us to assume if we're going to build structure for transgenerational wealth. 1, assuming that what you're building will be transferred to the next CEO. And you don't have to pass on for the next CEO to happen. The biggest companies in this country, Dangote, GT, Access, Zenith. You know what they have in common? The founders are not the CEOs. Google it. The guys that founded those companies are not the CEOs. So what does that tell us? You must think of another CEO. Let me tell you what's strange. And I know this is not popular thinking. You can argue it. Founders make terrible CEOs. Okay, guys? So the first assumption is that you're going to build something that you're going to transfer to the next CEO. Even if it's your children. One of the biggest Igbo pride, I think, and Igbos don't play with data as much as I love to play with data. You know what Igbo business I'm proud of? One Igbo business I'm proud of is GIG. God is good. Motors. Is one business that the founder died and the children took it to a level that the founder cannot have taken it to. See, guys, take it from me. If the founder of GIG was alive, I'm not sure GIG would be this big. But that thing, it doesn't just happen by accident. That's the first assumption. Assuming you're moving into the next generation. The second thing you must do is assume that you're going to eventually sell the business. When you think about your business as something you sell, that's in Emeka and Sons in Computer Village. Think about it that one day, Oraimo will come and say, I like what you've built. You built 10 outlets in Computer Village and 3 in Alaba. I want to buy. You must think like that. So I always have this funny analogy. That if you bought an iPhone and you were going to sell it in 3 months, so you know that it will affect how you treat the iPhone. First of all, you will not throw away the carton. Because if you throw the carton, how would you pack it to sell it? Some of us are being reckless with how we run our business because we don't think somebody will come and do due diligence to buy. Am I talking to somebody here? You must assume that you're building a business that somebody else will buy. Because the ultimate goal of every business I don't want to be technical. You see, every business, the ultimate goal of every business is not to make profit, it's to sell it. So Elon Musk became $1 trillion business, Abi? How do you think he became that? He sold IPO. There was IPO last week. And because there was IPO last week, IPO means initial public offer. SpaceX, the second company, went public, and that's why it became $1 trillion business. Are you thinking about one day going to the stock market with your business? So assume you want to sell the business. Then the last one is assuming that what you're building is going to have multiple branches. I know you want to build products. I don't want to own shops. But the ultimate goal is to own distribution, not shops. If you're building something that you're not thinking of having 2 shop, 3 shop, 4 shop, and you don't have to think that you're a retailer, even the real estate company should think of having multiple shops. The growth of Pnuel will be having Pnuel in every city. Offices. When you think that way, you think distribution. So when people talk about Dangote and they say, oh, he's built something amazing, I said, let me tell you the most important thing Dangote built. It was those small containers in every major city that they wrote Dangote Cement Depot. That was the most powerful thing he built. Because it's from those depots that thousands and millions of cement drove through. In the life cycle of business, there are 3 things you must build. One is you must build a great product and brand. 2, you must build great distribution. So when I was talking to someone early today, and I said that we're building a food retail chain, but we're building 11 outlets in 3 years. I said, why do you need 11 outlets? Why don't you just build a big restaurant? I said, no. Because we want to distribute other things. As I speak, in my house, there is a management meeting that happens once a month. It's happening now. Talking about structure, I don't need to be there for it to run. All I need to do this morning is create an agenda of what they want to do. I said, look, you have 11 outlets. Tell each of the outlet supervisor, the manager, to give us 10 supermarkets around each of the outlets. So 10 supermarkets over 11 branches will give you over 100 outlets. Tell them to show us each outlet that they give us. The supermarkets in that's one outlet give us 10 supermarkets. That's not smart. Tell us the supermarket, the name of the supermarket, the main manager or the owner, because we just got NAFDAC to distribute certain products to all the supermarkets. So that means we're aiming to have one product. So let me assume this thing is from our brand, XYZ Restaurant. We say we now do juice. Each supermarket, each outlet give us 10 supermarkets. That means if we wake up in the morning, we can talk about 10 supermarkets, right? In 10 outlets, that's 100. That means show us how we can get this product to 100 outlets at the same time. Does anybody understand what I'm saying? Dangote got right distribution. You know who made Dangote very successful? The distributors. iPhone has 1 billion phones on. How did 1 billion iPhones get into people's hands? Distribution. Make sense? Sorry, the next slide. I want to give us an assignment just quickly. Sorry, please, next slide, just quickly. Just keep going. Boast that there are 50 people that have bought their first car because they were distributors to them. Last year, I took on a project in Alaba International that I would have done 10 years ago. 10 years ago, I went to Alaba for the first time. True story, and I'll be vulnerable to you guys because it's a small circle. To meet somebody who was running one of the biggest brands in Alaba International. It was November, December, I remember. I had a conversation with him. I sent him a proposal, and I said, let's talk. He said, Eizu, you know how we Igbos are? Every Christmas we go home. We are not settled to have a conversation. Let's talk in January. I said, no problem. We'll talk in January. Go to your village, go and do Christmas and come back. He went home and never came back. He had an accident and his wife also died in that accident. First person and next of kin If you know the person. Now let me tell you what's interesting about this conversion. When I say think about your business transfer to the next generation, that's where transgenerational conversion comes from. It took us 10 years to build the structure they could have built 10 years before. Men in this house, you can't guarantee how people will treat your children if you're not there. I can guarantee you that. Let me say that again. Men, you can't guarantee how people will treat your children if you're not there. You must build structure. That's where investment starts. Because of time, I need to go. If you run a business above 10 staff here, I'd like to talk to you tomorrow and next week. I'm in Lagos till Friday. I'm Igbo, and I can only say this in a close Igbo circle. In this journey to wealth, Igbos are behind. Forget all the cash flow grammar that we're making. I just told that in all the top 10, there's no Igbo there. I was in a room a few months ago with Hope Uzodinma, the governor of Imo State, and I was having a conversation with some people in the room. All the powerful Igbo guys were there. I'm like, guys, the whole money that the whole of Computer Village makes, the whole money that Computer Village makes, as big as Computer Village, does not equal the money that Opay makes. One brand, Opay, does not equal it. Let's leave all this grad that we're making. Things are changing, and we Igbos are being left behind. And our ego and our pride, you know, sometimes say ROI, return on investment, but we Igbos, we are working on return on ego, ROE. Ego is what is keeping us. I want to talk to you in the next 1 week. I'm in Lagos for another 1 week. I travel a lot. If you have a 10 staff or you think that you want to scale, I want to show you how to build structure, corporate governance, a board. Because if you have boards, when those your village people throw that thing that they are throwing, like Sister said, your board will show up. You know, one thing I learned in spiritual realm is that no matter how crazy the spirituality is, there's something the spirituality fears, crowd. That's why when there's crisis and people gather to pray for you, it shows. You know, I was with someone a few months ago who had crisis, a real estate guy. And I said to him, if you had a board, this crisis would not have happened. I said, wait, you're a Yoruba guy that traveled to the east to go look for contracts. Sujimoto. You are a Yoruba guy that traveled to Enugu to go look for contracts. That's already 1-0. Because the guys there are looking at you like, why is an Ofe Manu coming to look for contracts? Is it that we don't know how to do it? I said the same thing that will happen to me if I go to Ondo to go and look for contracts, or Kano. But if you had a board that had an Igbo person who would have showed up for you. When Enugu state government wanted to do gra, he'd have called Obi of Onitsha to summon him and say, calm down, this is my boy. I don't really get why boards are important. I had a client that they wanted to deal with in this country. Somebody said, this was about 5 years ago, Buhari was president. He said, come, there is Idel Kabir Salah. The president will be in Katsina. I will drive you to Katsina. Let's go and see the president. That was what saved this guy. If you know how they were going to deal with this guy, they have sent MDLEA. I'm talking about importer-exporter. You know when they send MDLEA to inspect your container, you're in trouble. Then they send FRS to inspect your finance. Then they send custom to put you in demurrage. Bro, before you have finished that commission, half of your customers will have left. Because when they enter your shop, your shelf is empty. You have product though, but it's under demurrage in Tinkan Island. When you have a board, they would help you sort this issue. A lot of real estate companies are in trouble and nobody's talking about it. And there's a lack of corporate governance. You're not too small as a business to think corporate governance. You see these guys that are building traditional wealth, one of the first things they built was structure. When you look at all this Dangote boa, you find out where their head office is. You find out they're not in Nigeria. You say that's corporate governance. When somebody puts his head office in Dubai and he makes money from Nigeria, you understand that Dubai is tax-free. Does that make sense? Dubai, a lot of things in Dubai is tax-free, zero tax. Nigeria is a country where no matter what you do, have 5 sets of people in your circle. 1, a senior government official. 2, you must have somebody on speed dial who, if you call him by 12, will pick up, who's a royal father. Royal fathers in Nigeria are powerful. 3rd people you must have in Nigeria is a tier 1 religious leader, whether emir or pastor. I have a client that got into trouble. They were on his way to pick him up. Directive from the presidency. It took one of the daddy GOs in this country to make a call, and they reversed. Because I've worked with governors in this country. Every governor has one person that is a religious leader that he respects. Do you have anyone on your corner? You must also have a military general in your corner. Because what will determine whether they will tell you to write statements across the counter or behind the counter. You know, there's a difference. If they give you paper across the counter, you are safe. Behind the counter, you dey pull shirt, pull watch, pull shoe, enter, go sleep for jail. It's just one call. I have a client that he tried to deal with of recent. And somebody just goes, don't touch that person, no, don't touch him. See na Baba Michael Kiro company. So Michael Kiro said, former IGO police, Oliver. You must have, and let me tell you, it's not hard to find. Some of you are making decent amount of money that Salah just passed last week. You not say ram to one guy. And I say, sir, I just make I greet you, I drop one ram. That ram can save you 100 million in crisis. Just by him picking up the call and saying, no, don't touch that guy, don't touch that guy, it's my guy, he's my guy. Oh, you want to arrest him? No, I'll bring him to you. Then the police commissioner said, sir, don't bring him to me, I'll come to you. I mean, imagine if Obio of Onitsha tells the governor, I'll bring him to you. You will say, sir, don't worry, I'll come to your palace. Hope I'm making sense, guys. Traditional wealth comes from principles, structure, systems, strategy, quality of staff. Some of us are being penny wise, pound foolish. You are making 20 million a month in profits, but you don't want to pay one staff 200K. Let's not even go there with Igbos. Somebody that runs one hospital in this country said something to me, and I just laughed, but I knew it made sense. He said, Igbo people don't pay. See, if you know how much Southwesterners pay on accountants, lawyers, I was telling somebody, how many sons do you have from Southeast? How many sons do you have from Southwest? From Falana to Ganifayemi, renowned people. Let me tell you the truth. When you make money, use that money to pay the people that supply you the money. It's called the chicken that lays the golden egg. Some of us have chicken that lays golden egg. We eat the egg, now eat the chicken. Igbos, I feel at home because this is my family. We can do much better. Lastly, before I go, beyond setting up a board, beyond getting a manager, beyond getting quality of staff, the shared value, culture of your business is another thing you need to look at. No matter how much structure and strategy you have, the culture of your company will kill your company. For example, you have a culture where they don't talk to you, they don't talk back at you, they don't give you feedback, you're the odogu, you will be ruining your own business. If you cannot call meeting and people raise up their hands to tell you what they think because you victimize them, this is one thing that is a challenge in Igbo business. You must have a culture that is open-minded, a culture for innovation, a culture where the best guy gets the right position. You know, I was telling somebody that if you look at 30 states in Nigeria, the most prosperous state in Nigeria, nobody can argue with, is Lagos. If you want to argue with, remember that you're in Lagos first. You should have been in your village. And they said, why did Lagos get it right? Lagos is the only state in Nigeria that has the same governor. Lagos is the only state in Nigeria that has the same governor 16 years. If you know, you know. When you build a company, you must have order. This of Igbo people saying, Igbo is easy. Everybody is a king in their own background is a problem. So guys, in closing, please be intentional about what you're building. Anybody can fall off a ladder by accident. Nobody climbs a ladder by accident. The next few days, I'm in Lagos. If you scan the code, I'm going to talk to you. Look at what the problems in your business is: finance, structure, innovation, and experience. But if I come back next year, I want to see that some of you here are doing maybe 20 million a month, and you're not doing 200 million a month. And how that would happen is structure, is strategy, it's systems, it's staffing, it's culture, and more importantly, is leadership. The World Cup is going on right now. The FIFA World Cup is going on right now. This is the first time in the history of Nigerian football that people contested for FIFA tournaments, qualifying tournaments for the World Cup. Nigeria, when they were playing for the qualifying match for the World Cup, had two players who were the African best and the former African best in one team. It's never happened in the history of Nigeria before. Lukman was on a team playing with Osimhen. Osimhen was past. Lukman was present African Footballer of the Year. We still didn't qualify for the World Cup. It's not by the strength of the team that you have. It's by the strength of your leadership. Your work is not to be the best player. Your work is to be the coach to the best player. Thank you guys, and God bless you.